Okay. Today we're going to talk a little bit about linear equations. We're going to spend 2 days on this. We're going to spend 1 day really looking at what's called a slope-intercept form and finding intercepts, and then now we're going to spend another day writing equations. Okay, so that we can understand what's going on here. Slope-intercept form is y equals what? mx plus b. And in that equation, do you know what m refers to? Slope. And what does b refer to? The y-intercept. So that's why it's called slope-intercept. We have slope, we have an intercept. Okay. So, for example, here, we're going to go up and do some more of those notes. But it says identify the slope, and we'll say x and y. We won't just do the y. We'll do the x and the y-intercepts. So this one's already in slope-intercept form, isn't it? So it's pretty easy to look at and say, what's the slope? 2. And if you want to write 2 over 1, that's fine. And then what's the y-intercept? -4. But suppose I wanted to find the x-intercept. A for the day. Who remembers what I plug in for y to find the x-intercept? Yeah, if I want to find the x-intercept, I make y equal to 0. So I'm going to find the x-intercept, and I'm going to set y equal to 0. How do I solve that? Add my 4 and divide by 2. So I have a slope of 2 over 1. I have a y-intercept of -4, and I have an x-intercept of +2. So remember this a little bit? Okay. So some equations are not in slope-intercept form, but all equations that are in slope-intercept form will be solved for y. How would I solve for y in that equation? What needs to move first? Move the 5x. So I have a -6y equals, can I combine the 10 and the -5x? No, they are not like terms. So -5x plus 10. Then divide by a -6. Do I divide the -5 by -6, the 10 by -6, or both by -6? Both. Thank you. So a negative over a negative, make a positive. And then 10 over -6, what will that simplify to? Full 10 and 6 are divisible by 2. So -5 over 3. So now when I look at this, what's the slope? 5 over 6. And what is the y-intercept? -5 over 3. Good. So if you wanted to find the x-intercept, what would you set equal to 0? You would set y equal to 0. Kind of tricky, but how do we solve for that? Going to add the 5/3. When I add the 5/3, my new equation is 5/3 is equal to 5 over 6x. How do I get rid of 5 over 6? Divide it by 5 over 6, but I don't like to divide fractions. So in order to get rid of this, I can divide by 5 over 6. Instead of dividing by 5 over 6 here, I multiply by the reciprocal. And so you get 6 over 3 is 2. So the x-intercept is 2. Raise your hand if you really, really love working with those fractions. Can I show you an easier way? Instead of using this equation here to find the x-intercept, Let's just use the very first one to find the x-intercept. If we make y equal to 0, we would have 5x equals 10. What is x? 2. See that? If y is 0, then the y will just go away along with the 6, and you get 5x is 10, x is 2. See that? Okay, before we get to our assignment, let's talk about two other things. Number one, horizontal lines. A horizontal line, this will be counterintuitive to what you think, but I'm going to draw an axis here, and I'm going to say that I have a point of, we'll call it -1, 3, and I'll say I have another point of right here of 4, 3. Okay. You agree that that's a horizontal line? What do you notice about the coordinates it passes through? 3 for the which value? 3 for the y value. See how the y value doesn't change for a horizontal line? So therefore the equation is y equals 3. So if it doesn't have any variable for x, it just is a y equals, then it's a horizontal line. Okay? Vertical line, let's say I have a point of, here we'll say -1, and then we'll have a point here of 3. Whoop. We'll call it 1, 3. That makes a vertical line. What do you notice about those points? The x's are the same, so the equation is x is equal to 1. So what I want you, and we'll get to the slope form and parallel and perpendicular on Monday, but what I want you to see today as well is to look at C and D. Is C going to be a horizontal line or a perpendicular, or a horizontal line or a vertical line? Vertical line, and it's going to go through an x value of 3. So does it have an x-intercept? 3. Does it have a y-intercept? Does it cross the y-axis? None. The slope, do you know what the slope of a vertical line is? We call it undefined. If you look at your next line, y equals -2, is that a horizontal line or a vertical line? Horizontal through -2. So does it have an x-intercept? Will it ever cross the x-axis? No. Does it have a y-intercept? -2. Do you know what we call this slope? It is 0. And so the last thing I'll have you write down before we try a couple practice problems is slope. This is the graphic organizer that students seem to find helpful. I stole this from a colleague who thought of this, or she got it from somewhere else. If the slope goes up like that, it's positive slope. If the slope goes down like that, it's a negative slope. If it's flat, like a horizontal line, it's 0. If it's straight up and down, it's undefined. Those are the 4 types of slopes that we can have. 4 types of slopes. Okay. So I'm going to pause it, and we're going to look at a couple problems. We'll do a couple problems from your assignment. Let's do a couple problems together. So as you look at your worksheet, please put your name at the top. Yeah. At 25, is that about what time you're supposed to go? Go. Okay. Now, later. So, this equation is not in slope-intercept form, okay? But we need to put in slope-intercept form, which means we need to solve for what variable? We need to solve for y. What do we do to solve for y? Minus 3x. So that would give me a negative 2y is equal to negative 3x minus 12. I'm doing problem number 6. Now what? Divide by negative 2. So I get a positive 3 halves x. I get a plus 6. So that is slope-intercept form. What's the slope? 3 over 2. What's the y-intercept? 6. I think it's easier when you find the x-intercept to go back to the original equation. If y was 0, that would just go away. What would x have to be? Negative 4. See how easy that was? In order to find the x-intercept, we make y equal to 0. And if y is 0, negative 2 times 0 is 0. So that would just go away. You'd be left with 3x equals negative 12 as an equation. And then x would be equal to negative 4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to graph it. That's the last step. When we go to graph it, do you know what we plot first from this information? We plot the y-intercept first all the time. So I'm going to plot 6. Now, I'm not going to use the x-intercept. I'm going to use my slope because that's traditionally how we do it. You don't always have the x-intercept. Slope of 3 over 2. That means that I rise how many? 3. 1, 2, 3. And I run 2. Now I'm kind of off the chart, but now I could go backwards if I want. I could go down 3 and back 2. And what I like to do is I like to do that and then check. Does it look like that line has an x-intercept of negative 4? So I probably graphed it correctly then. Looks like my slope and everything else is probably done correctly. Let's do one more on the back side. Okay, let's look at the very last problem. What do I need to do to solve for y? Just divide by 5, right? If I divide through by 5, I get 4 over 5x plus 1 is equal to y. So therefore, slope-intercept form is y equals 4 over 5x plus 1. As I look at that, what's my slope? 4 over 5. What is my y-intercept? 1. Is that enough information to graph it? It is. What can I graph first? What do I plot first? Plot the 1. Now, what do I do next? Go up 4 and over 5. Or I could go down 4 and back 5. I draw my graph. Now, I'd also like to find my x-intercept. I think it's easier to find your x-intercept by looking at your first equation. What do I set equal to 0? Y, and this will go away, right? I'll end up with 4x plus 5 is equal to 0. How do I solve for that? Minus 5, 4x is equal to negative 5. Then divide by 4. You get x is equal to negative 5 over 4. If you did that on a calculator, you get negative 1.25. according to your graph, does it look like it crosses through the x-axis at about negative 1.25? So we can be confident that we did it right. You have 20 minutes, and that is enough time to possibly finish this up. This is your assignment. You have 10 problems. We did 2 together. I'll be around to help you. I do have to get some information to people who maybe missed today, so be patient with me, and please work hard.